I wanted to say thank you to Jessica and all the people that have been organizing this conference. I've been to many TEDs, and this has been by far one of the best TEDs I've ever attended. So thank you very, very much. Wonderful. Most of my friends have trouble believing this, but I was painfully shy when I was a kid, really incredibly shy. I couldn't talk to anybody. And I always thought that when most people were born, that in their toolkit as a person, it taught you how to walk up to strangers and how to become friends with people you didn't know. And I'd just been left out of my toolkit as a kid. So I spent a huge amount of time as a child watching other people, trying to think if I watched them enough, I'd somehow figure it out. My dad gave me a camera when I was 16, and it was a great gift because it allowed me to be there but not be there. I was able to insert myself into other people's lives. I was able to walk up to groups of strangers and not actually have to talk to them, but I could kind of be there without having to be there. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to be a photographer. I didn't know what that was, and I wanted to just go be a photographer. And my father and I had knocked down, dragged out battles because he was adamant about me not being a photographer. He was sure that I'd end up doing weddings and baby pictures, and so he made sure I went to a college which did not have a photography program. I had an art professor who luckily let me create my own major, a photography major, surprise, surprise. And for English class, I would take pictures of my friends and write little essays about them, and for geography, I'd photograph rocks. I mean, whatever it was, I would take pictures of it and somehow turn it into a course. Well, my art professor knew somebody at Time magazine, and so one day I had an appointment up there with my yearbook, if you can believe this, and I went to Time magazine with a yearbook. And there was a guy there named John Derniak who every year, I didn't know this at the time, would look for one young, hungry photographer and give them an assignment they were totally unqualified for and basically throw you out in the middle of the lake to see if you would sink or swim. If I had more time, I would tell you about how that assignment went. I almost drowned, but I managed to survive. And I was very fortunate to start working for Time and other magazines. And I always felt like a complete fake. I had never studied photography, had no background, no training. And I always thought every time I got an assignment, I would go from complete elation, like, oh my God, I got this assignment, to, oh my God, now they're going to find out I'm a complete phony and they're going to expose me and my life is going to be over. But it never happened, and I kept meeting other photographers. And one of the things that amazed me the most is that even if I was working for Time and you were working for Newsweek, when you got out in the field, other than when you were actually shooting, everyone looked out after each other. It was like this big family. And I was fortunate to go out to Southeast Asia and go to Japan and go to Australia and meet prime ministers. And again, I would pinch myself every day thinking this was some drug-induced hallucination. I was still back in college. This couldn't possibly be happening. And one day I was sitting at a bar with a group of photographers in Bangkok, and I was always the baby of the group, and people were always sort of making sure I woke up in time for the bus that was leaving the next day, or loan me film, or tell me what lens to use. And all these other photographers, who were about 10 years older than me for the most part, all they would do is bitch and moan and complain about their damn editors and how they didn't choose the right picture, and these jerks, and these, I mean, and I kept thinking, I am so lucky. I can't believe I'm like 26 years old. I'm getting to see the world. I'm like, you know, working for Time magazine, for God's sake, and you guys are sitting here all complaining. And I realized that what was going on is all of us would get very emotionally involved in the things we were photographing, and we all hoped that our photographs would change some situation. And very often when the picture showed up in the magazine, it wasn't that the editors were wrong or bad, but they had a preconceived idea of what they'd asked you to go out and shoot. And they were looking through all your photographs, and they were looking for pictures that matched their preconceived ideas. So one day I was sitting around with all these photographers, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could all get together and we could all go to a country like Australia, where I had been living for a while, and we could spread out all over the country, and we'd say, on your mark, get set, go. On one day, we would discover what Australia was really like. And we'd have assignments, but we would branch off and actually discover things nobody knew about. So all my friends said, great idea, you go organize it. Tell us, it's like, you know, Jessica, you go organize it, and everybody just show up for this thing. So I went out and met with 35 publishers thinking, you know, they're going to fall over what a brilliant concept this is. And I got laughed out of their offices. They said, this is the stupidest thing we've ever heard of. You're going to fly 100 of your friends to Australia. You're going to spend all this money to do what? There's like random pictures of people walking around the streets of Sydney. Like, why don't you go to a stock library, buy the pictures? Nobody will ever know. Just call it a day in the life. Do it black and white. Do a magazine. You know, so I went to the Prime Minister of Australia, who I'd photographed a bunch of times, and said, could you help me? And he said, yeah, nice try. Like, I'm going to pay for your book. And he said, but I'll help you. And I said, yeah, thanks. He said, no, look, I'm going to help you. Tell people, he said, I'm going to set up meetings for you with companies all over Australia, and you're going to go and see CEOs. And I said, yeah, why? And he said, okay, you're going to go to see these people and tell them that you're doing the Olympics of photography. And he said, they're going to help you tell the story of what it's like to live in Australia. So I'm going to go to the first slide here. We did a book, which I thought would be one book, Day in Life Australia, and I thought I'd go back to being a photographer. I had no money. We had 20 people sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor of my friend's apartment in Sydney, Australia. Steve Jobs gave us computers. Qantas Airlines gave us airline tickets. People donated things. We had no money at all. I couldn't pay the photographers. Everyone came to Australia. We had no publisher. I couldn't even get the book distributed through bookstores. We self-published it, and it became the #1 book in Australia. The Prime Minister was one of our photographers. I thought I'd go back to being a photographer, but the thing was so successful, it broke every record in publishing history in Australia, that people started coming to us to do more of these books. So we did a bunch of these books for many years. Then we started looking at topics like how the internet affects the world on one day, how the human race is learning to heal itself, something that I think Daniel Kraft would be fascinated by. And what was really interesting was that I thought we'd be lucky if the media even reviewed our books, since everybody had told us this book would never work, nobody would be interested, there's no market for coffee table books. It turns out when you invite the world's best photographers and editors and writers, they all have this pride of authorship, right? So it turns out that instead of being reviewed inside the magazines, Time was putting us on the cover, Newsweek was putting us on the cover. These books were selling millions of copies in a market where 5,000 was a bestseller. And the most fun part about it was like the annual gathering of the tribe. Every year, we'd invite the people we thought were the best photographers in the world. We'd spend months getting ready, but on the day of the shoot or the week of the shoot, we'd say, on your mark, get set, go, and here's your assignment, but if you get out there and you find something better than what we asked you to shoot, scrap the assignment and surprise us. And I think it's one of the reasons people love the books, because you weren't seeing a new version of the cliches, you were actually seeing real life unfold in front of you. Well, 7 years ago, Jennifer Erwitt, my wife and I, and a friend, David Cohen, and a bunch of other people got together, and we came up with a new idea. We thought everybody we knew had a camera now. All of you probably have a digital camera attached to your phone in your pocket. And we thought, what if we opened this up? And just the way you've been hearing about personalization, we thought, what if we invite the public to participate? So it's not just this elite group of professional photographers. Let's open this up to everybody. So to our complete astonishment, we got 1 million photographs from people all over the United States. And we said, this is during the Bush days, when a lot of people felt like our story wasn't being told to the world very well. And we thought, if you wanted to leave a message for your great-grandchildren, what life was really like in the United States, not a PR firm's perfect picture of America, but warts and all, what's good, what's bad about America, what would you want to tell your great-grandchildren about life in this country? We hired 1,000 photographers, if you can believe it. Incredible support from people. And the most surprising thing was that a young guy on our staff, Josh Hayner, came up with this wonderful idea. He said, now that the book's out, what if we let people upload their own photographs and put them on the cover of the book? So it actually becomes your book. It's your wedding, your kids, your dog, your parents' wedding anniversary from 30 years ago. 21% of the people that bought this New York Times bestseller personalized it. So it was the first time in publishing history where the technology existed and people had photographs and a fluency with the internet that they could upload photographs. I'm going to show you this for 1 second.
This evening, 24 hours in cyberspace. This has been a most unusual day for those of us who are just beginning to understand all the new technologies which are becoming so important in our lives. And today there was no better way to experience that than through a project called 24 Hours in Cyberspace. Its goal was to document how computer technology is sweeping the world.
Images from America, 24/7. First, these next.
So the last thing here I want to show you is when the died and gone to heaven moment in publishing is Oprah Winfrey.
Coming up next, voyeurism at its best, and we've got pictures. Well, that's a saucy piece.
I found my next favorite thing one day when I was just going through the bookstore. One of my favorite things to do is to go to the bookstore. Y'all heard? Okay. So I found this book. It is a great gift. It's called America 24/7. It is from New York Times, the #1 best-selling authors, Rick Smolan and David Elliott Cohen. What they did was 24 hours, 7 days, extraordinary images of 1 week in America.
The audience reaction.
So you get to see the faces of all of us that look like your own and what people do and how they live their lives. I just thought, what a wonderful book. Okay, it's by DK Publishing. It's a wonderful book, a wonderful coffee table book. But that's not the best part. It features beautiful photographs of Americans at work and play, and it is a work of art from the original creators of the Day in the Life book series. Many of you know what that is. It's $50, and I love this. Now, this is what's great about it. You just send in your favorite snapshot, and they'll put it on the cover.
The audience reaction here is the best.
Isn't that
Okay, enough of that. Anyway. But I mean, it doesn't, that doesn't get any better than that. I mean, you can just die and go to heaven now because, if you're in publishing, Oprah is it. Well, the night of the election, I was sitting with a group of friends who were not photographers, and people were very excited about the election. And I noticed a couple of very interesting things. One, about a third of the people in the room picked up their cell phone cameras and took pictures of the television set as Obama won. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they all said, well, this is history. I want to remember where I was. I mean, it was just a picture of the television set. I don't know how many of you did this, but I actually did it as well. And what was interesting is, as we started talking, I couldn't believe the number of people in the room that felt they had personally made a difference, that they had volunteered, they'd had a fundraiser, they wrote a check, they went and knocked on doors, they went to a call-on party. They felt like they had personally made a difference to this election. Well, this is election night, and everybody in the publishing world already had their Obama books ready to be published like the next day. So I was thinking about this, and I thought, okay, it's way too late to do a book about Obama, but I was talking to some friends who were journalists the next day, photographers, and all my friends have been on the campaign trail with one of the candidates. And I said, do you have pictures that didn't get published because they didn't fit that day's news cycle? I said, if you have some pictures you're really happy with that you think are even better than what got published, send them to me. And Jennifer and I got 40,000 photographs from our friends. Amazing photographs. So I started thinking, what if we could do a book that, first of all, showcased the pictures that no one had seen, a lot of the pictures no one had seen, and what if we could take this idea of customization and take it another step forward? So we met a wonderful friend who had been working with Michael Rylander, who's here in the audience, who's an incredible designer, and we came up with this idea of not just letting people add themselves to the cover of the book, but actually weave themselves into Obama's story. I'm going to
the latest twist.
I'm going to jump through this because we don't have time. I just want to show you some of the design of the book. I'm going to ask your opinion on something in a second. So we found these amazing pictures. We got Joe Klein, who wrote Primary Colors. We got Arianna Huffington. We got Obama's sister to all contribute essays. So here's this book that shouldn't have existed. We were trying to get this book out in under 2 months, which is amazing. We went to Hewlett-Packard that offered, this book should have cost like $150 each, and everybody donated. Google gave us AdWords. Google's put us on the front page of Google Images. Facebook gave us hundreds of thousands of dollars of advertising. Everybody's wanted to make this thing happen because it sounded so crazy and so impossible. I love the pictures. I just love this. We've funny pictures. Karen Malarkey, a wonderful picture editor, helped us go through this. Just these wonderful moments. Every single copy of the book changes, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. This picture is taken by my father-in-law, Elliot Erwitt, who's 81 years old. Now, what I love about the picture, not just that Elliot took it, but for the first time in history, everybody at a black tie ball has their own internet-enabled camera. So they're wearing tuxedos and ballroom gowns, but they've all got their, iPhones with them. It's just an amazing photograph. I love the fact that the world felt that they were electing Obama, the connections that people felt with this election, and a lot of humor. I mean, again, we're trying to tell this in a funny, different, sort of irreverent way. Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, the bust for that. This is the first pen used to sign the first bill, and I'm so glad that I'm not a photographer covering the White House, because the photographer had the wherewithal to actually look at this and realize what a funny picture it was. This is by Nigel Holmes, one of the world's leading infographic designers, who again, we sort of drowned him in statistics, and 2 days later, I said, this whole idea of electronic grassroots, how did he reach out? How did he activate people? How did he make so many people feel involved in this election? And he came up with a way of taking all this data and actually making it comprehensible to mere mortals. So I'm going to show you 2 videos in a second. And we did these videos incredibly inexpensively. How do you tell your story? How do you promote a book that nobody can see in a bookstore? This was not in a single bookstore. You could only buy it online, couldn't turn the pages, you could only look at it virtually. So we created 2 ads. The first one was done in about 3 hours. Adobe let us use their studio. And my kids are in this, our friends are in this. And tell me what you think of this. I'm going to show you 2 of them. This is the first one. You can bring the lights down.
You were there. You were there to hear the message of hope.
It's my daughter, Phoebe.
You were there at the beginning and for the victory. And every step of the way. With your time, your support, your dreams, your passion.
Cheap actors.
And to see history in the making. Now you can add yourself and your family to the pages of history in the Obama time capsule. a book as unique as the events it commemorates. Every copy individualized, because it's your story too. He couldn't have done it without you.
That's my son, Jesse.
Your nomination for presidency of the United States.
This is done by a company called Emotion Studios in Sausalito, and they were, again, people just came to our rescue. We said, we have no budget, we have no money, we're doing this on a shoestring. People said, how can we help? So that's the first video, and I want to ask you whether you think that does a better job, or the second one we did is because HP was our wonderful partner and sponsor on this, and they made the technology let us print the books. They have these wonderful series of hands ads, and so we had two 20-year-old kids sleeping in sleeping bags on our floor in our office for 10 days, and they did this. They shot this in a bus shelter across the street from
So
our
I got
house.
this cool new book. It's called The Obama Time Capsule, and it captures Obama's inspiring journey to the White House. What's really unique is that you can personalize the book in 8 ways. For example, you can add pictures of your family to a page of key Obama supporters. So once they're up there, you just resize and crop them. There's even a couple of spots where you can put in your own name and text. Here, let me dedicate the Obama Time Capsule to my mom. She's a big Obama supporter. When you're done customizing it, it usually takes about 10 days to get it in the mail. Check this out. Now you're the co-author, and your family's included in the book, side by side with these awesome photos of Obama's journey and even stats from the election. This part's also amazing. Your name appears inscribed on your own personal invitation to attend Obama's inauguration, and your photo appears next to some famous Obama supporters. And the coolest thing about the book is that you get to become part of his story.
So let me ask you a question. So I want to see hands for a second. So the first one with the book inside the book inside the book, how many of you think that was the best way to tell the story? Okay, about a third of the audience. And the second one? This one? Okay, I agree. I think I love both of them, but I think the hands one did it particularly well. So this is Michael's design. Basically, your name ends up on the cover of the book, so it's me, Jennifer, and you. So the book's on your coffee table, and there's your name. Your name's on the title page of the book. Your child or your family's on the back page of the book in a series of buttons. Your name is engraved on the invitation to attend the inauguration. And again, this is not like Zelig where you're trying to make believe you were part of history. This is to reflect, if you actually felt you made a difference, it's to say this is what you were doing. This is your family during a very interesting time in history. You can either use our stock dedication or dedicate this to your children or your parents or your friends. And I'm not trying to say a book, by the way, because we've closed the website. You can't even get the book anymore personalized. I just wanted to show you how we did it. So here's Diane on the back of the book, Michael's wife. And then you can add your children's artwork to a page of wonderful children artwork. George Lucas's foundation helped us reach out to children all over the country who had done artwork about the election. Your name appears on a BlackBerry message. This is a message we all got the night of the election saying, thank you for helping make tonight possible. That's it. I mean, it was really interesting. And one of the things we learned about it is that, in retrospect, you always want to look at the end of every project and say, what did I learn from this? The customization was terrific in terms of the media. It got huge attention from CNN and ABC. In terms of the public, even though people said they loved the customization, we gave away a tremendous number of sort of free copies of the book to friends and media. And a lot of people got paralyzed, like, I can't find the right picture of my kids to put inside the book. So it's really interesting today hearing Daniel Kraft and Jill Tarter and Fred Durst talk about personalization and customization. It's sort of been a theme today throughout, throughout, and this happens all the time, right? But I think it's really interesting to see how this is all going to work itself out. I'm really excited about the iPad because I think it's a whole new form of publishing where, basically you can tell a story like this without having to cut down trees, where the media that you're interested in ends up being personalized for you. So you've got great edit, but it also adds your story to something that you actually feel genuinely attached to. So as I said, I still pinch myself every morning that I'm able to do something I love. I thought Ross's point at the end is absolutely true, which is one of the exciting things I think for all of us as speakers being here today is feeling like a lot of you in the audience are just getting started. And there are so many people along the way who try to talk me out of doing things or try to tell me to lower my sights and, don't try because you might fail. And I think the message I think all of us as speakers up here today have been trying to convey is don't let anyone talk you out. Set your sights as high as you can. You can always adjust as life goes on, but sometimes shooting for the moon, in Jill's case for the universe, is probably the best advice any of us could give you. So thank you all very much.